Hello, and thank you for joining us on Journalist Hangout on Sunday. I'm Ayodele Uzubakun. Today on the program, terrorists launch 500 attacks on multinational joint task force, killed 2,368 soldiers using state weapons. Nnamdi Kanu files $5 billion lawsuit against federal government, demands return to Britain. On Journalist Hangout, a weekend special, INEC DS National Assembly says it needs no approval from it and NCC for electronic transmission of election results. And later on the show, Afenifere calls for dialogue over VAT collection ruling as Court of Appeal orders parties to maintain status quo. I'll be hanging out with Babajide Kolade Otitoju and Adekunle Yusuf. So if you're ready, let the hangout start now. Thank you for staying with us. Let's begin the discussion with something very important: money. President Muhammadu Buhari has put on hold the controversial payment of $408 million to consultants over the Paris Club refund. After initially approving the payment, President Buhari directed Ministry of Finance to ask the Debt Management Office (DMO) to stay action until all cases become clearer. This was the position of Babajide and other analysts when the issue came up for discussion on this program on Friday, the 3rd of September. Let's share some of the discussion with you.
The federal government, everyone benefited from the Paris Club refund. Now, the governors are saying that what has been set aside in form of judgment debts for contractors and consultants, they do not deserve. And that there ought to be a forensic audit that looks at all of those claims so that we can then be sure whether or not they deserve to be paid at all or to be paid as much as we are now about to pay them. So I think it makes sense, especially given the fact that the matter is in court and 29th of September, they are supposed to appear in court over the same matter. So there should not be any form of indecent haste to pay. I know that the federal government has a lot of judgment debts on its neck. Look at OD, for example. The mindless invasion of OD and the killing of innocent people was a matter that got to court. The federal government lost, and I'm aware that judgment debt had not been paid. Even Baba Suwe was unduly accused of harboring drugs in his belly, whereas it wasn't true. By the time it took NDLA to court, NDLA could not pay. They ruined his career, they ruined his humanity, they ruined his life. Baba Suwe has not recovered since then. Yet that judgment debt, NDLA came out to say they've not got that kind of money. They don't even get funded to that extent every year through the budget. So this one, there is a need for the finance minister, for the president to take their time. Let all these cases be decided. Let us see whether indeed these fellows deserve this money before we go ahead to. If the president would allow the courts to finish adjudicating on this matter, and he sees that clearly there are some facts that were not presented before him before he was convinced to take this decision. The president is a decent human being, is a rational human being, and he loves his country, no matter what anyone may say. I'm convinced that the president will take the right decision in the best interest of the Nigerian people. So what we are asking for, we don't know who is right for now. We don't know whether Ned Nwoko deserves all of that money or more. We don't know whether another lawyer deserves whatever, even much more than he has asked for. But what we are saying is, subject this to a forensic audit so that the people do not walk away with what they do not deserve.
Yeah.
Let the courts, because the NGF approached the court through their lawyer Afenifere, and the case has not terminated. So let the judicial process run its course, and then after that you can take that big decision. Once the judicial process runs its course and everyone can see that, look, this is the decision of the court, they would abide. But to not let the judicial process run its course, to simply dismiss the efforts of the House of Reps to investigate this matter, I don't think that will serve the cause of the ordinary Nigerian. Okay. Do you know how many boreholes we could sink with that kind of money, or even a fraction of it? Now, our people, close to 1,000 Nigerians have died of cholera because our people continue to drink contaminated water and all that in our
avoidably.
Yes, these are not diseases that should kill people.
Yeah.
In this modern age. So if we get even a fraction of that money, there is a big difference that it could make. That's $480 million, not even naira.
The same thing, $418 million. And if you look at the speed of the dollars now to a naira, you will understand what we really, if we have to break this money down just for consultancy. Babajide, you said it all. There's nothing to be added.
Yeah.
That if at this time that the country is gasping for breath economically, and the time that we really need all the monies we can get to pay this to some consultants, I don't know.
It's a thing of joy that we advise the president not to take this decision to pay, and the president was listening to us. When we sometimes criticize some actions of government, people will sit on Facebook and other places and be abusing us. They will say we hate the government. But if we all keep quiet, we see things that are wrong and we fail to talk about it, how then do we serve the cause of good governance? I mean, a president could be misled.
Yes.
But he has to bow to superior argument when he's shown clearly that, look, Mr. President, this decision is not good.
What is wrong with the investigation?
Yes. Yes, let them do it. The same people who contracted those guys are saying they didn't see any work that they did. We don't know whether it is true or not, but let the court, the matter is in court. They are appearing in court towards the end of September. Let the judicial process run its course before rushing to go and pay. And we've had cases in the past when we even paid twice. We paid a consultant, paid another consultant again. That's in respect of Abacha loot. We paid twice. So let this one not be like that. That was our own argument. And I'm happy that the president has said, okay, hold on, let's hold on. Let these cases be decided before we know what to do next.
There's no need to be in a hurry. Adekunle Yusuf, for this kind of money, we need to hold on, do all the due diligence that we need to do on this matter. We're not talking about the propriety now. Maybe they will pay them or they will not pay them. Just investigate first and get the facts and figures right.
Yes, that's the best that should happen, because I was very sad when I saw the approval, the president gave that they should go and pay. We said no. Listen to other people. Other stakeholders are saying, let's investigate. They are now saying, we are not going to pay anybody. Believe me, I don't know how they work out the $400 and something million. How they arrived at that figure. It's not one person. It's about 4 or 5 parties, 140 something.
Compared to Nigeria, 4 or 5 persons, how much did they distribute that?
So we are now saying, what exactly did they do? No, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to rubbish their efforts. What exactly did they do?
That is so
that make them to collect so much. Believe me, when the NGF said a forensic audit, who is afraid of investigation.
Okay.
It's the right thing to do, and I commend the president for changing his mind.
All right, so moving on now, the 30th anniversary of the creation of Osun State was an occasion that the administration of Governor Gboyega Oyetola would not allow to pass unmarked. Part of activities lined up for the celebration was the anniversary colloquium, which featured eminent Nigerians like Sultan of Sokoto, Muhammadu Saad Abubakar, Oni of Ife, Oba Adeyeye Ogunwusi, and other dignitaries, including our own Babajide Kolade Otutoju. During the event, they described achievement recorded in the state within 3 decades as commendable. Let's share the highlights of that event with you. Okay, we'll get back to that visuals. And Babajide, what really happened? The 30 years colloquium of the Osun States was held this week, and you were one of the major speakers.
Yes, it was just an opportunity to look at how the journey has been for the states. They got Baba Konde to do the keynote speech.
Former governor.
Yes, he was not in the country, but he delivered the keynote speech virtually. And the Sultan was the chairman of the occasion. He also delivered the speech virtually and the closing prayer. Everyone talked about the potential of that state, because that state has some qualities that you do not see in other states. For example, it has more urban centers than any state in Nigeria. At least 8 or 9 urban centers in Osun State alone. And what we are saying is, look, if you do your best to provide infrastructure that is needed in those urban centers, then you can then stem migration to Lagos, to Ibadan and other places. So let inner city roads be constructed, let roads leading to those urban centers be constructed. Businesses will thrive and the state will earn a lot more from IGR. So it was a day of celebration, because speaker after speaker spoke about some of the great strides made by governors even before.
Okay, let's just play the story and let's have a feel of what happened.
A colloquium to celebrate the 30th anniversary of Osun State with the theme celebrating a milestone, building a prosperous future. It was chaired by the Sultan of Sokoto, Muhammadu Saad Abubakar, who set the tone for the program.
My invitation to this colloquium speaks to the president, the governor, is as a statesman, a bridge builder, and a lover of and a believer in one strong and indivisible Nigeria. It is also a proof that there is hope for this great country.
Governor Gboyega Oyetola speaks on the reason for the colloquium.
This colloquium has therefore been designed as the intellectual arm of the 30th anniversary of our state, to interrogate the performances of the state so far, examine possible gaps, and project for a sustainable future they all crave for as a people and desire to be built for our posterity. It is therefore a period to bask in the reality that we have been able to create the future we intend to deliver.
Panelists identify areas that need more attention in the state to improve people's standard of living.
So all that we need to do is to focus on developing those urban centers that I've talked about. If we focus on developing them, the migration that we see from those centers to Lagos and to other places would most likely stop or be reduced drastically.
We must recognize the role of the civil service in the development of Osun State. And Osun State prides itself as one of those states where we have a female chief judge, in line with best practices today.
Over the past 30 years, successive government in Osun State have tried to provide good roads. And I think this government is doing so also.
Goodwill messages were delivered by traditional rulers, political leaders, and other eminent individuals.
I salute the courage of the governor for his universal administration, for his political administration, and the political collectivity of the people of this state. May God give him wisdom to enrich and to project further to this state. And God will allow him to project further and consolidate his good works.
The state was created by General Ibrahim Babangida in August 1991. As part of efforts marking the anniversary, the state government also plans to present awards to some distinguished individuals who contributed to the creation of the state and its development. Rafiu Hamid, TVC News, Osogbo.
Okay, recently we had a function in Osun State, so I had to follow Engineer Niya Kinwale to his own town, Ikpetumodu. So from Bongon down to Ikpetumodu, leading to some other journey road. What I discovered that all the inner roads, most of the inner roads, that they've actually they are tarred roads, courtesy of Governor Oyetola through my friend Remy Omoaye. Jide was talking about the urban areas, the number of urban areas you have in Osun State. And anytime you think about Osun before, you used to think about unpaid salary, you used to think about a very broke state. But now I think Governor Oyetola is changing that narrative.
Yes, I think at least from the image crisis the state was having at some point, to me, has been resolved, at least substantially. Before, Osun was constantly in the news for the wrong, reasons. You get my point?
Half salary.
But this does not mean that a lot was not being done. If you trace, I know Osun inside out, so if you trace the history of Osun, beginning from the time of Aregbesola in that state, he did a lot when it comes to rural connectivity road. He did a lot. You may have issues in some other areas, but when it comes to, for example, the quality of road construction that you see in Osun, it was until his time. When you go to Osun, when they want to do drainages, you see they carry brick and bricklayers doing it. But the standard construction is what Osun is, and this has continued under the current governor, Governor Oyetola. And if they go in that pace, maybe in the next 20 years, Osun is blessed.
Should get better. All right, the cost of war are enormous, involving lives, materials, and emotions. A new research by the European Peace Facility has shown that the Boko Haram terrorists and the Islamic State of West Africa province, ISWAP, launched 500 attacks on military bases during the attacks in the 12 years of insurgency in Nigeria and the Lake Chad region. 500 attacks and killed 2,368 soldiers. Babajide.
Yes, the report says that there were so many attacks on military bases of the multinational joint task force, as well as military bases of the countries in the Lake Chad basin, countries like Cameroon, Niger, Chad, and all that. So the paper was prepared for the European peace facility, was prepared for the United Nations by the European Peace Facility. I saw, and they actually broke down the attacks, showing clearly that in 2015 we lost 134 soldiers. In 2016 we lost 157. In 2017 we lost 171 soldiers. In 2018 we lost 425. In 2019 we lost 642, and in 2020 423. This, and there was also talk about why the war has gone on and on. And as far as the writer of this report is concerned, the fact that Boko Haram can attack military bases and steal weapons is the major reason the war has gone on, because they need these weapons to be able to prosecute the war. So we just have to continue to pursue these enemies of the Nigerian state. And yes, we are hearing some good news, but we are cautious. We just hope that the efforts being made by the armed forces will continue without let, so that we can achieve victory. The final analysis, I'm not surprised about 2018, because that was the year when the terrorists attacked Metele. You know, that was the year that they attacked Zari. So that's why, and there were huge fatalities in those attacks. So that's why, from their tabulation of the year-on-year attacks, you could see that 2018 and 2019 were quite high.
Adekunle, the report also talked about the need for the EU to engage the AU and ECOWAS to address the problems of attack on multinational joint task force troops. What kind of help can these foreign allies provide?
Even a lot, even if it's about intelligence gathering. If, you know, Nigeria's neighbors, if we have enjoyed more cooperation with our neighbors, maybe the problem would have, we may not have won the war completely, but possibly we have made, you know, more progress. You get my point? Now, if you make it an all Africa, you know, issue, when everybody is on the table, you share intelligence, you cooperate. Funding is another aspect. So there is a lot the AU can do beyond just sharing information. You can pull resources. They can pull even logistical resources. You can pull military. You can share training, just as you know. So there's a lot we can do together if we are united. Because the problem in Nigeria is, if it's not, you know, it's a problem for the whole of Africa.
All right. I have joining us the DG of the Progressive Governors Forum, Sally Lukman. Thank you for staying with us.
Thank you, Ayo.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody on the studio.
Thank you for staying with us. So the network is, so that means the network is quite okay.
Well, at least for now, I can't guarantee in the next few minutes.
Okay. Let's go by start by the statement you made recently about elites fueling insecurity in our country. How exactly do you mean?
I think it's a matter that we have to keep reminding people. There is a boundary about politics. It's not a good thing that we should politicize. Issues of insecurity are issues that we should all be united to give whatever support we can give to government in order to ensure that our country is safe. Now, before the last 2 weeks or thereabout, before the military launched the current attack in the forest of Zamfara, Katsina, and part of Kaduna, the major complaint is that people want the military to act. Now, the military has acted, and then we are having people criticizing to the ridiculous extent of calling on the military to stop, and that there should be negotiation with the bandits. These are not human beings. These are not human beings. So that's the major issue. I am worried that we tend to politicize a number of issues which doesn't require politicization. We should all be united to ensure that this problem is brought to an end. That is the main issue,
Okay, after almost 20 years since it was born, Boko Haram still kills our soldiers, and what do you think government should do?
I think a number of some of these issues, from all that is clear now, is that investment in the armed forces of Nigeria has been quite weak. And you can see the difference that is being done with the new renewed effort to do some massive investment in terms of weaponry. Of course, that has to be extended to training. But I am hoping very soon we'll bring this matter to an end. Immediately it is end, I think we must campaign that our government do some massive investment in a number of these forests. If it is training institutes for our armed forces, we must never allow our forests to be vacant in such a way that hooligans will go and take over and make life uncomfortable for all citizens. I think that should be the new campaign immediately we are done with these rascals bandits.
All right, okay.
What's your impression of the military campaign going on in the Northwest at this time? I'm sure you must have been receiving some reports.
Yeah, I think it's very heartwarming. It's very heartwarming. At least the bandits are now the ones that are uncomfortable. They are looking for food all over the place. They are being forced to release captives, people they have kidnapped, because they can't even feed. They are now faced with the challenge of survival, which is what they created for all of us. And I think the military is doing wonderfully well. Whatever encouragement we should give them, this should be sustained.
Can the military approach solve that problem decisively?
No. It has to be a combination of both the military approach and civil approach. Because you see, part of the major crisis we have as a nation is the fact that investment in education has been so weak. From the mid-80s, when the World Bank IMF campaign about reduce public expenditure in education, in health, and a number of... So there is a wide gap. So many children who are supposed to be in school are not in school. And you can see the gap in terms of classroom, in terms of schools. So part of the civil initiative that must be stepped up is the question of really developing our educational system so that every child has an opportunity. Because you see, before we get to a point when people that look like human beings have lost their humanity and are behaving the way the bandits are doing, it's simply because at the critical period when they are supposed to be developed, we have lost it. We have lost them. We have not been able to pay attention to them. So part of the civil approach has to factor that. The other thing is that I think we must also engage our traditional institutions.
Yeah.
A situation where, for instance, we allow gaps in our cities, in our communities, anybody can come and stay there without basic check. These are part of a major challenge, and it's not the military that can solve that one. It has to be civil, people in the community that should be able to do that. So there are quite a lot of things that can be done. But finally, the major aspect we have to really address is the question of our police work. And I don't think we have the luxury.
Okay, what's your position on the views by some people that repentant Boko Haram or repentant terrorists should get amnesty?
Hello?
Yeah, that was just made.
Okay, Adekune Yusuf asked you about the repentant Boko Haram.
What's your position?
What's your position on them?
Should they get amnesty?
Should they get amnesty? Should they be tried?
You see, I am not
Okay, we're having serious challenges with the network there, but that was the Director General of the Progressive Governors
for number of those things.
Sally Lukman. Sally, are you still there? Oh.
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, I'm here.
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, Sally, you can continue.
That on the person of repentant Boko Haram, I think I can only hope that our leadership are able to take the right decision to manage the challenges that is going to come up. But I don't think it's a matter that I can sit and start commenting on with my little knowledge, because there are practical issues on ground people have to respond to. And must have confident that those responding to it are responding with the best of intention.
Okay, so we just leave it there. We just took our chances with Sally. He told us before, the Director General of Progressive Governors Forum, Sally Lukman. Thank you for that clarification, and thank you for your contribution. I'm sure one of these days we'll be able to have an exclusive, long exclusive interview with you, Babajide. So looking at where we are now, and when we want to talk, is something that's, I don't know, I have a feeling that the everyday story of the bandits is somehow overshadowing the effects or what is happening in the Northeast. But the Northeast somehow has taken the backstage, talking about terrorism in Nigeria now.
Yes, clearly bandits are killing more people than Boko Haram at this time.
They're killing more people?
Yes, certainly now they are killing more people. Bandits killed 88 persons in one day in Kebbi State. 88 persons. We can't remember when Boko Haram killed that number of people last. Must have been a long time. So now, and they don't forget, under the new leadership of Boko Haram, under the leadership of Abu Musab al-Banawi, he does not believe in killing civilians. He believes in...
Not like Mr. Shekau.
He believes in attacking civilian JTF
and the military,
police, and the army. Those are the people that he prefers to kill. And he's told the people that, look, you can access your farms as long as you are ready to pay tax. And we've seen pictures, even videos of people's farms thriving in the areas that is in control of. We've seen even the judicial system, that he puts. Yes, they have their courts, and they are trying people
within the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
So, as you will not be hearing of, because they have also merged the two groups.
Okay.
Now they've merged the two groups, so you won't be hearing of killing of civilians like we used to have. So that is why
I'm tempted to say that I don't mind his philosophy, but they are terrorists.
They are terrorists.
But Chika is just a madman loose.
Yes,
killing everybody.
That was a psychopath who kill his own commanders, who killing
one.
Yes, Photocol, Cameroon. One bought one of his commanders bought a motorcycle and showed it to him. That I just bought a motorcycle, I bought it in protocol, and he ordered his execution straight away. So he was just a terrible human being, a former perfume seller who suddenly became a warlord.
Can be original perfumes.
All those normal. So now I think almost 2 weeks ago there was an attack on the military base in Ran. Ran
okay.
is in Calabalge local government, is along the border with Cameroon. So for a long time too, there was no story of an attack on a military base by Boko Haram until that one of almost 2 weeks ago. So generally we're having some calmness in the area, and then the surrendering of the largely Sheikh House people, you know, is also something to be happy about. But
almost 5,000 people.
I don't know how many there are, but a lot of the Sheikh House people and their wives, their
children,
you can say that they are not active fighters. Because even from the weapons surrendered, you know that they are not active fighters. But the war has not ended. We still have ISWAP with its headquarters in the Lake Chad Islands. We still have them. They remain a threat. So, and just as they've said, a lot of the weapons of the army have been looted by these guys. They loot weapons because they know that without those weapons, they can't have an edge over the army. So it's a war that is still on. We should never deceive ourselves that the war has been won. We jubilated too early in the past, and
it was fatal.
Those guys are still there. So, but the efforts to continue to waste them and get them to realize that they can't defeat the Nigerian state. Whether it takes 1,000,000 years, Boko Haram cannot defeat the Nigerian state. You know, and one day, this war will come to an end. I only pray that it won't take 30 years, as the former chief of army staff said, that in insurgency, by God's grace, this one will not take 30 years.
It won't be as strong as the Taliban's.
No.
Come out,
God forbid.
The whole country. Adekunle, let me ask you exactly what you asked Mr. Saliu Lukman. Exactly. Yes, we've been discussing it. It's like a catch-22 situation. Very, very difficult to, you know. These people, their decision to even join Boko Haram ab initio, some of the women that you've seen their visuals and everything were married to their commanders. Some were, you know, actively involved in the planning and everything. Some men actually took part in all the strategy session and everything. Now, you're now saying because of the division in that camp, you are now saying you want to come back to Nigeria as a citizen. How do you want the people of Ran, the people from, you know, all these communities that has had their own bad fair share of attacks?
You know, all this, you know, is happening because there's no enough transparency in the whole affair on the part of the government. You have this, you have that. You see, to carry people along in anything you are doing, you need transparency. And when people are carried along, it's so easy to do a lot of things. We started hearing, you know, through the grapevine that some people had been released, they have been radicalized, and then later this repentant Boko Haram and all. You see, for all of this to take place, who is discussing about the lives that have been ruined, people that have died? If you have visited some of these communities destroyed by Boko Haram, you wouldn't believe you are in Nigeria. You will see bridges, schools, everything destroyed, you know. And now those who committed these atrocities against our country, maybe because of the renewed effort of the military, they realize that the balance of power has changed. they now come back to us that they have repented.
Accept us.
And,
bandits now begging.
And we now want to behave like, lily-livered, people to now embrace them. Believe me, we should not. Many of them who have cases to answer, they must answer their case. By just saying sorry, does it atone for all the criminalities you have done? Because do you know that many families will never recover from this?
Never.
Many will never ever recover.
Even the community, the villages, the
first people into marriage, 16-year-olds,
and many of them will return with 4 children, 3 children, 5 children.
People who are in school.
So 6 children, and
that's good. Yeah.
How can you reverse the hand of the clock?
So I have Abdul from Sokoto. Thank you for joining us, Abdul.
Yeah, good morning. How are you doing?
Good afternoon, Abdul.
Good afternoon.
Yeah.
Go ahead, please. Yeah. You're live.
I commend the topic you guys are speaking on, and it's something that we feel like it needs to be heard, and let you guys be vocal about it. Because the current situation of the country right now is not something when one cannot travel and be safe. It's not a good thing at all. So comment what you guys are doing.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's done.
All right. Thank you, Abdul. Thank you for your contribution. Now, in chess, a sudden smart move can change the course of the game in favor of a disadvantaged opponent. In his ordeal with the federal government, the leader of the proscribed indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, Nnamdi Kanu, is demanding an apology and 5 billion naira damages for violation of his fundamental human rights. Kanu, through his counsel, Aloy Ejimofo, also demands to be returned to Kenya, where he was arrested, and Britain, his country of abode, before the federal government would apply for his repatriation. Whoop. Judy? This is okay. Asking for damages, 5 billion naira in damages for violation of his fundamental human rights.
Yes, it's his right to make that demand, and it's not really about what just happened. It's about the invasion of his home in 2017. So he's saying that that his rights were infringed on the day, and that the courts should now grant an order that the Nigerian government should apologize to him for the way he was treated, and that the way he also talked about the way he was brought to Nigeria from Kenya, though the Nigerian government has not told anyone where he was arrested. They are saying that he wants to be sent back ultimately to Great Britain, where he had been staying before he came to Kenya and got arrested. So, and he also wants the case against him discontinued. So he's trying to use this new case to discontinue the current one, you know, hinging everything on what happened back then, the infringement of his rights. I don't know what the lawyer, the strategy of the lawyer, but it's within his right to go to court and ask for the Nigerian government to apologize to him, or the Nigerian government to pay him billions for the violation of his rights. It's up to the courts to determine whether that kind of case has merit or not.
He was granted bail in Nigeria, and somebody stood as shorty to him and everything, and in between he disappeared, and he was saying that they came to invade his house and they almost killed him, that he had to run for safety. So bringing him back now, the propriety of how he got to Nigeria is another thing. So what he's asking for now is another thing, to be returned to Britain. And if he's returned to Britain, as a citizen, we have his full rights and everything. So there can be a process of expediting.
Let me tell you, what is happening now is connected to what happened in 2017. If you follow the cases, it was then that the government proscribed IPOB and labeled them terrorist organization, and this thing was gazetted, if you remember at that time. Then the military operation in that part of the country. So he said, and it was clear that at that time that his life was in danger, and he ran, he fled for his life. And if you follow the last court appearance, that the first court appearance that he had when he was brought back, you know, from whatever the federal government got him, we don't know yet. So he cited that he ran for his life, that he would have been killed if he had not, you know, voted with his feet. Now, with what he's saying now, he's saying he suffered mental, psychological, emotional, and other, you know, things through the arrest, through the incarceration, and all that. You know, lawyers always have their strategies, and this one may be a good one, it may not, but the beauty of it is that it's good that he's coming up with it, and it is true that the presidency will not decide this one. He himself, the lawyer, will not decide it. It is the courts, the judiciary, that has the final say on this. It's part of the beauty of democracy, believe me.
Okay, to give us a clearer view, let's take you to a Lagos-based human rights lawyer, Inebe Efyong. Inebe, Kanu has raised a lot of puzzles here and is making 5 billion naira demand, and is also demanding to be taken back to Kenya, where he was arrested, and taken to Britain again, where he's based. He's a dual citizen. Inebe, can you shed light into what Mazi Nnamdi Kanu is asking for?
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me. The interesting part about this case is that it will offer the federal government an opportunity to come out clean on certain matters relating to Nnamdi Kanu that have been lingering since 2017. You know, as you have rightly said, there is a subsisting charge against him pending at the Federal High Court. And while that case was pending, you are also aware that there was documented evidence that some form of military activity took place at his residence, where it was even reported that some of his supporters and followers were killed in the process. And he fled the country supposedly to ensure that he was not murdered or he was not killed for his own safety, as he has claimed. Now, when the matter came before Justice Nyako of the Federal High Court, that is a criminal matter, the terrorism charges or the treasonable felony charges, the issue of his absence from trial was raised. And that was why the court at that time had to determine whether certain sanctions should be imposed on his shorty. At that time, his shorty had made the point that the person he's too shorty for left the country involuntarily, having been forced by the military following the invasion of his home. There was never an opportunity or a clear opportunity, or I would say, Justice Nyako, the trial court, the trial judge, appears, you know, to have been a bit hesitant to go into the merit of that matter. So for me, this is a good opportunity for Nigerians to know why that action had to take place in his residence even after he had been tried. If it related to the terms of his bail, if the excuse or the defense of the federal government is going to be that he had breached the terms of his bail, then the question will be between the prosecutor, the federal government of Nigeria, and the court, who is in a position to determine whether the terms of bail was breached by Nnamdi Kanu in 2017 or not. The other aspect of this is the manner in which he was brought back into the country. From all that we know, subject to the findings of the court, it does appear that he was brought back to the country against his will. In other words, there has been a chain of activities from 2017 to date. Now, ordinarily, once somebody is standing trial and the person fails to appear for his trial, the court has the power to revoke his bail, which was what happened in this case. And that person is liable to be arrested. We will not be having this debate, this argument, if Nnamdi Kanu was arrested within the territory of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. But having left Nigeria, whether rightly or wrongly, whether through proper immigration process or not, within the context and the purview of international law, the Nigerian government does not have the power or the authority in law to bring him to the country for him to continue to face his trial without complying with certain prerequisites. Principal among these being the extradition process. There is no evidence on record that Nnamdi Kanu was ever subjected to that process in Kenya. What they did is what is known in international law. Can
you take us through this process? Because I was told from my findings, the process of extradition is somehow long and cumbersome, and we don't have any, as you said, we don't have any evidence that Nnamdi Kanu was taken through this process. So his lawyers, they are claiming that he was abducted, that he was kidnapped to be brought to Nigeria for trial.
I do agree with his lawyers, because as of now, extradition is not something that is done in secret. It is a judicial proceeding. It's not something that is done behind the party that is the subject of extradition. If I am to be extradited to the US, look at the case of Abayari, for example, and that will take me to explanation of the process. Within Nigeria, if this were to happen in Nigeria, like the case of Abayari, we have the Extradition Act. And of course, there is also extradition treaties between Nigeria and other countries in the world. Normally, when somebody is a subject of criminal investigation or is wanted by a foreign country for purpose of prosecution on account of infraction, the government where the subject is residing has to go before the court in that country and file an application seeking consent of the court for that person to be forcefully taken out of that country into the country that is being sought. That is what extradition essentially means. Even when that process has been determined by that court, that person has the right of appeal. And I will refer you to the case of Obanikoro, if I'm not mistaken. If I'm not mistaken, Senator Obanikoro, who was wanted by the US government. And even after a federal high court had given a decision, the matter went further to the Court of Appeal. You can also cite the case of Julian Azanga, right, who is being wanted in part by the United States government. You see the process that he has to go through, where the process has been ongoing. So the fact that it takes time is not a justification for the government of Nigeria to resort to this brazen, this arbitrary action. If Nigeria is a civilized country, if Nigeria is a member of the international community, look at what is happening in the case of Sunday Igboho. It is exactly the same thing. Benin Republic is now teaching Nigeria rule of law. And for me, that is an embarrassment to what is supposed to be the giant of Africa. Because the government of Nigeria is looking for Sunday Igboho, but the government of Benin Republic said, no, we cannot just allow you to take him without going through the process of extradition through our judiciary. That is the right that Nnamdi Kanu was entitled to under the law. But whether this high court in Oka can give an order for Nnamdi Kanu to be returned to Kenya as his lawyer has prayed for, or to the UK, is a very tall order. I'm not going to determine that, but I think they have a lot of argument to make to succeed on that point. But I do agree that if the court finds that indeed the process by which his home was invaded, the manner in which the military went to his house was wrong, then he is entitled to damages, is entitled to public apology. If the court also finds that the manner in which he was even brought to the country was wrong, that is also a violation of his right. But whether that is sufficient, whether that would be a legal basis for him to be taken back to the Kenya or to UK is a different thing. Why am I saying so?
Why do you think the federal government...
Because you have a pending charge.
Why do you think the federal government...
the Federal High Court?
What do you think the federal government, why do you think they're quiet on how it was brought in and where it was brought from? Is it the manner in which it was brought in? That's why it's like a top state secret. Nobody's talking about it.
They will now be forced. That is why I started by saying that the good thing, or one good thing about this case, is that Nnamdi Kanu through his lawyers will now force the hand of the federal government, because they have to file a counter-affidavit to the suit. And they must disclose the circumstances under which he was brought back to the country. They don't have a choice at this point. They have to disclose how they brought him back to the country. They have to also disclose what led to the invasion of his home. At this point, they do not have a choice. Because if the suit is not contested, the natural thing is for the court to grant the release.
They are denying already.
No, they can deny it to Nigerians, but they cannot deny it before the court. Because if they are saying that they went through due process, they have to exhibit evidence of that due process. They have to demonstrate that there was an extradition process, which never took place. This couldn't have been done the way, we know extradition process to work. But don't forget, I have told you that the Federal High Court, presided by Justice Nyanko in Abuja, is also seized of the charge against him. And that court is a court of concurrent jurisdiction with the High Court of Anambra State. In other words, the High Court of Anambra State will not necessarily determine the incidence of the pending charge before the Federal High Court. That is why I'm saying that whether Nnamdi Kanu will succeed in that aspect of his claim, I cannot really say. That is a tall order for them. But it is good that this case has been brought. It is an opportunity for, I hope that the High Court will be courageous, because this is one case that requires a lot of courage for the courts to look at the matter dispassionately. And if the federal government is found to have violated due process, to have violated his right to life by attempting to kill him, if that is actually shown and established and proved, or that his right to dignity of the human person was violated, that he was tortured, he has alleged, that his right to freedom of movement was infringed upon, Nnamdi Kanu is entitled to compensation and public apology. And the fact that IPOB was prescribed does not have any consequence on what I am saying. Because even the issue of prescription is still being litigated by the court in Nigeria. And let me make this point. Why is it that the federal government only make recourse to the court when it favors them? When they needed IPOB to be crushed so brutally, the government went and got an ex parte order to prescribe IPOB. But when they needed to bring back the leader of IPOB to face trial, the government treated with disdain that same due process. So we cannot have selective adherence to the rule of law. If you are saying that Nnamdi Kanu has committed offense against Nigeria,
yes,
you must subject him to the due process of law.
Thank you for that insight. It's gentlemen, it's really funny because this case, at the end of the day, the dimension you don't even expect is going to take the dimension. Because I've never really asked myself that, you can't perpetrate illegality to say you want, because he's attending the trial, you want to try him. The way and manner in which you used to bring him back to the country will be talked about at a point in time.
Yes, because his lawyer would definitely ask some pertinent questions. That is the thing. But, in our job, what we do best is to simply wait for the judicial process to run its course, and then we are reporters, we are not judicial officers.
We'll be here to talk about it.
Yes, whatever happens.
And don't forget that it's not only individuals that can be lawless or can commit crime. Even the state can be lawless. You get my point?
It's very,
the state can be a rogue, the state can be anything. If you don't follow the laws then the state, remember the 1984 Umaru Diko saga, you get me? Even though we were under military rule, this one we didn't say it's the same thing, but whatever is the case. Remember the case of Igboho.
And don't forget that we are pushing that one too.
Remember the case of Igboho. Remember the case of Igboho. The state invaded his home around, you know,
the DSS.
The DSS, where is the state? So, and you saw what happened. And for hours, nobody uttered a word until the media started, you know, insinuating.
The video is everywhere.
Then it was almost after almost 24 hours before they started coming out with something.
No, I was even thinking that that what we will hear was that unknown gunmen carried out.
That's the definition now. Any crime.
Yes.
You know, the first one on Igbo's home was attributed to unknown gunmen.
Yes.
So we thought the another one would be unknown gunmen, but maybe because of certain things.
No, because there was a need to arrest.
And the second one,
unknown gunmen don't arrest. Yes. There was a need to arrest and bring people before a court.
So when we don't come clean, then this kind of issues will come.
Moving on now, Nigeria is still far from an electoral process that will be the envy of all. In this search for credible electioneering, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has vowed to go ahead with electronic transmission of election results in coming polls. INEC says it does not need the approval of the Nigerian Communication Commission, NCC, to do that, as the National Assembly's decision to subject its constitutional power to conduct elections to the NCC is absolutely unconstitutional. Some Nigerians are backing the commission on this, as TVC News' Nelson Etta tells us in this Journalist Hangout Weekend Special.
To be or not to be, this has been the raging debate on the use of electronic transmission of results by the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, for the 2023 elections in Nigeria. In a political move described by many as self-serving, the National Assembly passed the amendment to the Electoral Act, but rejected the section on electronic transmission of results by INEC. The lawmakers stated that electronic transmission of results can only be approved by the Nigeria Communications Commission, NCC. The NCC believes that Nigeria is not prepared for electronic transmission of election results. But does INEC, as an independent agency, require the permission of the National Assembly or the NCC before it can deploy technology for electronic transmission of results?
In Edo and Ondo, INEC literally transmitted results from the polling units. What they had done was using the ZPAD technology. Results from polling units were uploaded on the INEC results platform. And we saw that work in Edo and in Ondo 2020. Now, what did Edo and Ondo teach us? That INEC can actually transmit results from polling units with the right technology, if allowed to do that. Why this became a debated issue was because a lot of groups have been advocating that the Electoral Act should recognize, or rather give INEC the power to electronically transmit results, just so that it is not regarded as an INEC policy, but rather a matter of law.
If you're running your office and you find out that using Excel is easier than using a manual ledger, you don't need to write a policy to say, from this day forth, we of this organization shall hereby be using Excel. You just move to Excel and you continue your work because it's more efficient, it's faster, it's easier, and everybody gets on with it. But we found out that our politicians, as you've said, need the law to get them to do the right things, or in a sense, to constrain them to do the right things. Because otherwise, INEC should be able to just issue guidelines and so say, oh, okay, we've found out that this works better, this is what we're going to do. And everybody keeps it moving. But we realize that if it's not encoded as part of the law, then they find ways around it, or then they kick against it. But at least it's better for those of us on the other side if there's actually an enabling law that allows us to hold them accountable.
Until the Electoral Act as amended is signed by the President, the Nigerian Constitution does not recognize the card reader nor electronic transmission of election results. Can these influence or cause litigations if the need arises?
The purpose of this electoral transmission is that to have a consistent pattern by which election can be transmitted, and the other party, the litigant, the lawyer challenging any kind of a dubious electoral result, can rely on those data to challenge those results. But in circumstances where the Constitution has refused to give backing, or where there's no any statutory provision backing the electoral transmission, it makes that point so weak. It makes it so weak for you to rely on that when you are in the course of litigations.
If the goal is to conduct credible elections, what then is wrong with transmitting election results live?
Now we have two separate versions. The House of Rep has a version, Senate has a version. I think it's the Senate version that's trying to make it under NCC. The levels of thinking in their desperation to do these things shows you how far they're willing to go.
When the election is being counted in America, we all watch it live from CNN. How the election has been transmitted, everybody's getting figure. Why should we even need that to be in our law in the first place? Because the INEC has power, so many power under the Constitution to conduct the election. They should be the one determining whether, we can conduct this election by virtue of the electronic process. And when you look at the section 160 of the Constitution, is a very strong provision of law. When you look at that section, that section is saying, look, the president can give rules, regulations to almost all other agencies in Nigeria, except INEC. The law of Nigeria today, the Constitution says that, look, the president cannot even impose on INEC the way they should do things. Talk less of, we have NCC. And who is NCC to the power given to INEC by the Constitution? To be telling INEC that this is where you can conduct election electronically, this is where you cannot.
At the just concluded local government elections in Kaduna State, the process of voting and transmission of results were fully electronic. Governor Nasir El-Rufai recommended the use of electronic voting system and transmission of results in the next general election.
Shown in Kaduna is that it is possible to do this across Nigeria, and I think we are hopeful, we are encouraged. We believe that technology is the key to minimizing cheating in elections, and unless we remove cheating in elections, we will never have credible leaders, we will never have accountable leaders, and this is why we are committed to this.
The chairman of Kaduna State Independent Electoral Commission also spoke on the ease of operating the electronic voting device.
My voter's card, I will now bring it here. You see, I didn't even have to touch the machine. You're supposed to highlight it.
Please press the OK button on the right bottom of the EVM to submit your vote.
Okay, this is the one I selected, so I'll press OK. Now on the left here, you see the receipt being generated, and you see the APM logo, and it has dropped into the ballot box.
Many political analysts believe that the 2023 general elections will be a referendum on the promise by the All Progressives Congress APC to strengthen the electoral system and regain the trust of Nigerians in the electoral process. The question then is, will the APC keep that promise? Nelson Etta, TVC News, Lagos.
As we are counting down to the 2023 election, this will always be a bone of contention, and it will always generate the controversy that we saw on the floor of the National Assembly when it was discussed.
Yes, many people have spoken to me since that day when the NCC appeared to go against his own earlier
declaration
about the level of teledensity in our country and penetration. But we are dealing with politicians. Politicians have their way of doing things. I never imagined that anybody will go against electronic transmission. But we saw it. We saw it. But as I've said before, INEC does not even need the National Assembly for some of these issues that are now being brought before them, because the Constitution is supreme
to any other documents,
any act,
any electoral act
or parliament. This Constitution is supreme, and the Constitution permits INEC to conduct the election in the way that it deems fit.
Yes, Section 160.
That's what the Constitution says. So you don't even need to go and get validation to use card reader.
Yes.
You don't even need to get validation to use the card reader. Agree that, yes, the card reader will be your electronic accreditation method or device. And then hold on to it. Whoever does not use it, if you have a rec or returning officer that fails to stipulate the use of the card reader,
that bypass it,
punish that person. The INEC rule book, the content of the INEC rule book is clear. The card reader is compulsory. But what do we see? This 2019 election, many places card readers were bypassed. It's such a massive shame. And as I've said before, the INEC chairman knows that even amongst his own people, there are some recs that are so notorious who will not even do anything to enforce the use of the card reader. In some cases, we've seen recs that stood firm and said no. Everywhere you returning officers failed to use the card reader, I cancelled the elections. We saw elections cancelled in Sokoto and in other places. But some recs will not even, they won't do anything about it. And what is the result of that? We had about 56% use of the card reader for the 2015 election. Everyone still talks about that election because even the number of litigation came down drastically because people could see that the election was largely free and fair. In the case of the off-season election of 2020, that's Kogi and Bayelsa, what did we have? We had 19% use of the card reader. Now, 19% compared to about 56%. That's a massive descent. We've gone down seriously to show you how desperate we are to win elections. We don't want to use the card reader. We just want people to go and vote, and then so that we can do massive thumb printing, and then we'll be opening our eyes to say, hey, we are popular, I won election. Well, you are a bloody rigger. You didn't win. You rigged. Then coming to 2019 election, we achieved 16% use of the card reader. So it's going down. That's the point that I'm making. If you had 19% and then 16%, after down, initially having 56%,
and the percentage,
the more elections we have,
it's getting poorer.
Yes, the more elections we have, the worse things are becoming.
I mean, it's distancing the election from transparency.
Yes.
From 56 to 19 to 16.
Yeah, to 19. That's the
from 56 to 19.
Yes.
What happened in 4 years?
The off-season election, Kogi and Bayelsa, off-season election went down. So this is the thing, because we have some INEC officials who are very forthright. They will insist on the use of the card reader. In some states, we have INEC officials who will not bother
at all.
So do you not hold the same meetings? Do they not sit down in the same room? And Professor Yakubu will say, oh, we must use card reader. And then he sees, even from the pattern or of the election, he will know when his people fail to allow the card reader to be used. So we just have to change. It's clear that we just like rigging an election, and it's barbaric to rig an election. It's barbaric.
Adekunle, when you see what happened, because I don't like what happened on that floor, but
you mean National Assembly?
Yes, the debates on this particular thing, and it has been established that INEC, they have a kind of unlimited power to decide the modality, how they want to conduct the election.
Do you know, the problem is truly the leadership of INEC itself. When many of them get the job, they are afraid of second term. You get my point? So many of them don't actually enforce the legal benefits they have. Look at what is happening in INEC now. The man is in second time, he doesn't need anybody's, you know. So you need to enforce that independence. I love what the man is doing. What the National Assembly is saying is to erode its independence. They say no. Look at the law setting up INEC. It says you can come up with rules and guidelines that will set the template for smooth conduct of elections. You get my point? Why is the National Assembly so interested in electronic transfer? Why are they so vehemently opposed to electronic transfer of election results? Who is afraid of the light? Now look at NCC. Why is it becoming more political, you know, in a matter that ordinarily you shouldn't be concerned about? You get my point? So it's INEC that we assert its own independence. Yes. Look at, you know, INEC under Jega now. Well, you know INEC under Jega, how it will behave. So under this man, this is an opportunity for him to leave a legacy for Nigeria. That look at where Professor Jega made our electoral, you know, system. Look at where he took it. Then the thing plummeted badly. Now let's raise it. Whether the National Assembly is in love with it or not, Nigerians want transparency in the elections. They want the elections to be credible. They want their votes to count. Anyone that is not in love with that, it doesn't matter. Just do what is right, as long as the law is on your side. On this matter, INEC, you know, is right. Go ahead and create, you know, the template that will, you know, lead to credible elections in Nigeria.
We quickly go on this break. When we come back, we're still talking about the Independent National Electoral Commission on electronic voting. Yes, you still on to Journalist Hangout on Sunday, and I still have Babajide Kolade Otitoju and Adekunle Yusuf in the studio. Jide, moving on now, 2023, in 2019, you know, we are always part of the process, as in, you will be in the studio, you'll be doing your analysis, I will be on the field, and those whining sessions of collecting the form EC8A, trying to use calculator from one local government to another local government, trying to do it manually, and at the end of the day, you know, it's just a whole hell of a mess. But if we are pushing for improvement, we've seen what the telecoms can do. We've seen the exploits that we've made since the advent of telecommunications into Nigeria, and some people will say, oh, in their hometown, they don't have network.
But there was a senator who claimed that in his hometown that there's no network, and residents of his community came out to say, you are a liar. You are a liar. There is network in our village. Don't lie. You know?
As we don't bring our village into this.
The capacity of the Nigerian politician to lie is just tremendous. You can't...
because we understand the likes of Senator Alim Dume, a war-torn, ravaged community and everything. They don't even have... The Boko Haram might have even destroyed all their masts there. We know, because the capacity of Boko Haram to destroy.
The elections in Borno State are usually held in the IDP camp. Most of the elections, because what you find is a local government, maybe there are just 2 towns where people are resident in, or other towns have been destroyed, people don't live there. Or in some cases, you have a local government like Guzamala local government, not even soldiers are there. No soldier at all. You have a local government like Badam, there is not a single civilian resident there, just soldiers alone. That's the local government where they killed Colonel Abu Ali. That's Malam Fatori, you know, Abadam. Majority of the residents have moved to Niger Republic. We have a huge presence of Nigerians who fled from Abadam to Niger Republic. I was discussing with their lawmaker, also assembly member the other day. There are people who are resident there. So in such a place, no, elections won't even take place at all. The people from that area, local governments like Guzamala, that nobody lives in, not even soldiers are there, they go to the garrison town of Monguno to do their election inside the IDP camp there. They've already agreed that that's the way they are going to do it, you know. So you can understand if someone like that says, okay, we can't do electronic, but even that one in the IDP camp,
they use phone
network. Yes, people use their phones.
So
even that one, not to. There are places where the telcos are told us since 2018 that they can help. And are in places where, you remember the Kaduna Independent Electoral Commission boss even saying that the telcos have assured them that anywhere that they will be able to do electronic transmission. So we saw it. Kaduna showed us that, look, with technology we can do these elections. The more the point I'm trying to make is that the more we remove human influence from the conduct of our elections, human intervention, and use technology, then the more our elections will get better. But the situation in which people are still stuck with the past, years of rigging, they have not cleansed their blood of years of rigging. They are going to tell you that no, technology is a waste of time. No, we have to do it in this way. What can anyone do about that? There is no part of this country now where you don't have this PAGA or what or they call POS. You go to the village, the POS works. Everywhere people can get money. And what do they use? It's still network now. So if in the remote village people can receive their alert, you know, one politician was telling me, he said, see, these are liars, that we in our constituencies we transfer money. They receive alert in those constituencies where we are claiming that there is no network. How do people receive the alert? We send money to them, they receive.
Is it the fear of losing the election, or we just don't want to move forward, or we are considering,
or both,
or we are considering, look, my people, that if we adopt this system, it will automatically disenfranchise, or there's a tendency that it will disenfranchise the large chunk of would-be voters?
I see it as a reflection of the caliber of people we have in the political space. People who are more interested.
Let me quickly take a board member of Yaga Africa, Izewagu. Thank you for joining us, Izewagu.
Thank you, Ayo. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you, Eze. I know you are on transit. Now, we've covered the election together from Anambra 4 years ago, everywhere, all the states we've been to, and you've seen the process. And Yaga Africa is at the forefront of advocating for, you know, electoral reforms. But our National Assembly, the way it's looking, we might not be able to deploy for 2023. But why INEC is saying that we have the capacity to deploy these electronic voting devices?
Transmission.
I think, if you can hear me, I think it's I've followed the conversation. I think what we need to be clear about is that we need to temper that conversation so that we don't create we don't create unnecessary excitement. We have to approach our conversation in a manner that puts INEC not to give complicity to the exuberance that INEC is currently displaying, that it can, overcome the challenges that technology is a challenge in election, and we must gradually engage that conversation in a way that provides us the shock absorber for the kind of challenges that we face. I listened to colleagues in the studio who were talking about that in every village, there are villages that you send money to and they will not get money until 3 days or 4 days after. That is the reality. Either you were in Edo, the technology was deployed in the Edo election. What was covered was less than 66% of that state. Many parts of that state were not, INEC was not able to do electronic transmission of results. So we need to, I think, approach this conversation in a more nuanced manner than Amphinos do. The second point is that let us also realize that the community collusion in election is real, where community politically exposed persons, town unions, district heads ambush electoral officials and ensure that they do not follow process and procedure, and with agreement of party agents. So I'm just throwing this out as some cautionary spin to be able to understand that the crisis is not just the way we have seen it. We have seen INEC tell us we are ready for elections, where everything is ready, and then we postpone elections. And when we postpone, nobody takes responsibility. Nobody comes to say this is it. We paper over it. The next election, we are told that we are 100% ready. So let us also listen to those who are raising concerns. It's important that we listen to those who are raising concerns and see how we can follow those concerns to approach elections in a way that can give us the outcome that we're expecting. That having said that, INEC is constitutionally called Independent National Electoral Commission. But the challenge is that our election is governed by law. Many jurisdictions, their election is not a law-driven process. INEC in Ghana, the Electoral Commission in Ghana does not require the National Assembly to pass any law to give it power to conduct election. But today we are in the National Assembly seeking electoral reforms. So if you have to go to the National Assembly to seek reforms, to seek improvements in your election, you should be careful that it is also politicians that are in the National Assembly. And so we continue to put the pressure and make sure that they do that which, will improve elections, because politicians are driven by interest, whether from the north or the south or the east. It is that interest is about winning elections, and they are the ones we go to, because our election is law driven, to give us laws that will improve our elections. That is the tragedy that we are in. So we need to understand carefully that if you have a law driven election, you need to be careful how much you say INEC should just go ahead and do what it likes. Then the judiciary is waiting for you. In 2015, the judiciary gave a knock, a very big knock on the card reader. They said the card reader is not recognized by law. And so we had to approach the National Assembly again to say, look, can you mainstream this and give the INEC the power to deploy whatever technology it can to administer elections. So the challenge is the kind of process that we run in our country. We have to always, for INEC to get money, it has to go to the National Assembly. While it is called independent, it has to the appropriation for its resources has to go to the National Assembly. So these are just some of the huge challenges.
Thank you.
So I'm just saying,
thank you. Thank you, Ezewagu. Ezewagu is a board member of Yiaga Africa. Thank you in spite of that short notice. So, gentlemen, moving towards 2023, I don't know, is it done and dusted? That's...
No, they've already said they will not agree to electronic transmission, but we saw electronic transmission work in Edo State. And they made the election very transparent.
And Ondo.
In fact, people already had an idea of who had won.
Yes, in the afternoon.
Before the end of... and then in Ondo too, it worked. Yeah. So are people saying that Ondo and Edo are probably the only states in Nigeria where it can work? No, INEC even told us that they conducted some off-season elections in some very remote parts of the north, and electronic transmission was used. You know those by-elections that they do, that very remote. So except we are saying, oh, that those elections, that something is wrong with those elections. All that we are after is, let's have transparent elections. You had the governor of Kaduna State saying that you can't have good leaders if you don't have good elections. Politicians have a feeling that they don't need you, that they will win election whether you like it or not. We must not be found in that kind of situations. If politicians know that they can't win any election without the electorate, they will work for the people. They want to keep their positions. They work for the people. But if they can simply win elections by rigging, blatant rigging, you know, shooting people, snatching ballot boxes in today's world, we are still snatching ballot boxes in our country, and we still want to stick with the past. I mean, it's really unfortunate.
Adukuli, your last take on this.
Politicians should just think about our country, and maybe self-interest should just calm down. The way they are doing, Nigerians are not happy. We want credible elections so that we can have credible leadership.
All right. And finally, money, they say, is capable of turning two brothers to bitter enemies. So it has appeared regarding the war over value-added tax remittances between the federal government and some states. In the face of the battle, the Pan-Yoruba socio-cultural group Afenifere has called for dialogue between the states involved and the federal government to avoid possible multiple taxations that collection of VAT by states may cause. Meanwhile, the Court of Appeal in Abuja has ordered the Rivers and Lagos states to maintain status quo over the collection of VAT pending the determination of appeal filed by the Federal Inland Revenue Service, FIRS. But actually, this was on the headline made the headline Monday to Friday. And there's this tendency that if you're not very careful, this might be ethnicized, this might be politicized.
It's already been ethnicized.
Do you understand? This will just bring unnecessary acrimony.
There is no issue in our country now. It's such a shame that we do not bring bigotry into it, bring tribalism into it, regionalism, sectionalism, religion. We bring religion and other divisive sentiments into everything in our country.
I don't know.
It's so terrible.
This is not the Nigeria I grew up in.
VAT matter. VAT is a socio-economic matter. If we want to look at it in that way, it is not a political matter. If you ask a governor now, like the governor of Kano, for example, we not oppose it, because if they say Kano should start collecting VAT,
they will make money.
Kano is one of the most prosperous states in the north.
They will make a hell.
Even in Nigeria,
they will make money.
They have the potential. They have the potential. Kano had always been a center of commerce. go through history, Kano has always been a center of commerce in our country. So it's not a matter, it's not like, okay, if Lagos starts collecting VAT, then Ekiti will suffer, then Osun will suffer. Osun will not suffer. All that states need to do is to look inwards, improve on your capacity. Yes, be more creative. Bring investors into your country, lure investors into your states. Some governors are not doing it. And some of the money that gets wasted on frivolities, if only states can use such monies wisely. In our country, we are seeing states like Nasarawa, states like Kaduna, bring in investors in agriculture and other areas. You look at your area of strength and work towards making yourself even stronger in your area of strength. I don't know how the courts will resolve this matter, because at the end of the day, the upper courts will get involved. Already people are arguing that that there's no country in the world where subnationalities are known to collect VAT. That is usually the central government that collects it and all that. Maybe such argument will come in when the matter is being decided in the court. I really do not know, but for me, I don't care how it is resolved at the courts. What I care about is our hunger for ethnicizing and politicizing every matter. Then you start seeing all kinds of analysis, this and that. I mean, this really, it makes no sense. Can't we even be united on anything? Must everything be politicized?
Now, the Federal Inland Revenue Service now approached the National Assembly and, saying that they should be put place on the exclusive legislative list. That's why some people are getting suspicious. Maybe they knew that, look, at the end of the day, we might not do well in this case ultimately. That, as a result, that the National Assembly should now bring them to part of the items on the federal government exclusive list that presently I think is on the concurrent list. That's the one between the state government and the federal government.
You see, when you look at the intention behind that, at a time when many Nigerians want many of the items on this exclusive list, to be, removed, devolution of power, all such things. Some people are still saying, let's add to the exclusive list. I don't know the reason behind that. To me, it doesn't win.
It's a big contradiction.
It doesn't win.
While some people are saying the 68 items on the federal government
American, system that we copied from. How many do you have on the exclusive list? How many items? So we have too much already, and it's part of why Nigeria is not being governed properly. We are not having the best from governance. Now, you want to add to that? I don't think that can work. But when you look at VAT, it's not. Do you know, if you go back in history, do you know it is not Rivers State that started this thing? It was Lagos State.
Yes.
Remember Oshibajo at the time, the current vice president, when he was Attorney General. I don't know whether politics or whatever, they abandoned this struggle. They were winning in court. Now we have a man who is courageous enough to start it. Anybody's opinion does not matter. The courts will decide. I love the way Wiki is going about it. It's not just unilaterally declaring or imposing. You approach the court, and the court has pronounced. If you don't like what the court has said, then you go to higher courts. Look at Lagos State. What has happened? The law does state and
no, because they can see an opportunity.
Now they now say the appeal court has said I
read something from,
they didn't join Lagos State.
Chief Mike Ozekome. I read something from Chief Mike Ozekome today, saying that the status quo antebellum they were talking about is not that the state should stop collecting the tax. that they said they should continue. That's what the status quo. That's what that court means.
No, they can't just continue. They have to put a lot of things. They have to put the paper today. Even in Rivers. Let me tell you, even in Rivers.
It's so confusing.
Even in Rivers, they have to put a lot of things on, in place. You have to meet and and educate many stakeholders. Yes. There's a lot that will still be done. So it's not just.
I have an economist, that's Nnemeka Obiareri, is joining us via Zoom for more insights on this. What is going to be the advantages and disadvantages of this battle between the Federal Inland Revenue Services and the states? Nnemeka.
Thank you very much for having me. In fact, I am so excited with the developments and the arguments surrounding this VAT issue between the state governments and the federal government of Nigeria and through the Federal Inland Revenue Service. Very good development. The restructuring that we have always paid for is about starting. My position remains, this country is a country that is so awesomely blessed that if we truly apply disciplined fiscal federalism, that we will have sufficient revenues raised across the different subnational units in Nigeria to make Nigeria a truly prosperous country, which we are not today. The argument is very clear. By the provisions of 1999 Constitution, unambiguously, states are supposed to collect VAT. But if you look at it holistically, what is VAT? It's value-added tax. VAT is one of those mobile taxes that, if not carefully applied, will result in homogeneity of businesses and the double taxations at different levels. If we look at different federations, some of the countries from where we modeled our own federation, like United States of America, Germany, and then even United Arab Emirates, that is made up of 7 federated emirates, you will see clearly that if we are to follow things the way it will help us, VAT should actually be centrally collected and then distributed in a scientific manner that does not create indulgences and laziness on part of those that are not creating the right environment for economic activities to boom at their centers. Let me take, for instance, the United Arab Emirates, which is a more conservative federation, to give us an idea of how this can work in Nigeria. As of today, the provisions of the 1999 Constitution makes it very clear for the state to collect it. I think beyond the emotions, we must provide credible political and legislative solutions that will make it work. Go to United Arab Emirates. It's a very conservative environment, a Muslim nation, but yet you will never see them setting up Hisbah or whatever motley organizations to destroy beer parlors or alcoholic drinks. But what they do at UAE, which is helping them to ramp up revenue. For example, now if you go to Dubai, there are areas where you will buy alcohol. One of the ways they put measures in place to discourage consumption of alcohol is a high rate of taxations that they put on it. To drink a tot of Hennessy in Dubai will cost you almost about $70, which is 37,000 naira. Those regions, those emirates that decide to pursue it, like Dubai, are making almost about $60 billion annually from tourism and those kind of environments. What I think we should do is for the National Assembly, that is these governors, the federal government of the state assemblies to all come together. Let us be honest. To make it more effective, the law should be amended for the VAT to be collected centrally, but in distribution of resources, just like we had it in the early 60s, when we had a physical federalism that worked for each and every one of us. States like Lagos State and Rivers State, through which some of these huge VATs are collected, should be allowed to hold 50% of whatever VAT that is collected through their areas. 35% should be paid into the central pot to be shared among the 36 states and 774 local government areas. While the federal government should control 15%. If this is done, what it will simply do is that states will look inward to begin to see how they can harness resources and create enabling environments for companies to come to their states to establish so that they can have more VAT collectibles. I will give you an example. In Kogi State, Kogi is a cashew belt. Annually, Nigeria produces about 540 tons of cashew nuts. But most of these cashew nuts leave Kogi State and are processed mostly in the south. And if you go to ShopRite, if you go to Reni's and other supermarkets in Lagos, as you are buying those cashew nuts, you are paying VAT. If we have a physical federal republic where things are done well, a governor in Kogi State that is very smart and proactive, what will he do? He will attract those person companies from Lagos State. Because the truth is, any manufacturing business will want to locate the manufacturing process near the source of feedstock. But because we have been used to decentrally sharing things, where you collect 1 trillion in Lagos State, you give Lagos State 9 billion, and you share the rest to the rest of the other states. Most of them are no longer thinking creatively how they can create environments that will enable them to attract businesses. Take, for instance, SB Miller. SB Miller, when they were trying to come into Nigeria, wanted to establish in Asaba. Pete Obi, being a very sound businessman, was able to convince them to come into Onitsha. Today, the volume of VAT collected from produce manufactured by SB Miller in Onitsha is humongous and is helping the Anambra State economy. So I think in the long run, beyond the emotions, beyond the tribal sentiments, beyond the regional cleavages, if we want to adopt the best practice, of course, restructuring has actually started, whether we like it or not, is for us to review the whole framework to make it a way that it will not be cumbersome for everybody. We have to amend the law to make VAT centrally collectible, just like any other mobile taxation. But 50% of whatever is collected within a geographical location, within the federating unit, should be given to the federating unit. 35% at the center, 15% the federal government, and it will dovetail to other areas. I don't see the reason why the federal government of Nigeria should control ports. If you go to America, if you go to UAE, if you go to Germany, federating units like Nigeria, the ports are controlled by the states and they contribute to the center. I think it's a good development, very exciting development. If we will be very sincere to ourselves and do the right thing, Nigeria will be best for it.
I think we're good. I want to thank you. That's just something you have. Thank you.
Thank you. If you listen to him very well, so he doesn't have a problem with VAT collection. He has a problem with the way proceeds from VAT are
he's even advocating that the way can take it.
The source of even the whole.
That's the source of the evil people are trying to fight. That you encourage listeners. Listeners. When you give, a lot of proceeds to people who
are not prepared to look inward.
You create parasites, you create all this kind of things.
You see, the one thing that I can take from him, because I know that he's a very objective person, is still the point that people have made that VAT is not collected anywhere by subnationalities, which means that it has to be collected by the federal government. Now, how it is distributed is the issue. And Obiari is saying, let us amend the law and ensure that, look, states like Lagos, like Rivers, can get a lot more. No state governor will be happy, for example, if he awards a contract for 30 billion. And then on that contract, based on the payment, VAT is deductible, and then something very little comes back to him. Maybe another state even gets more from that from the VAT on that contract that he has awarded than he himself. I mean, nobody.
Look at it. If you look at Rivers, the way public works, you know, contract, everything goes on in rivers. I don't know of anywhere in Nigeria where they are doing that. So which means that
good roads.
And when you look
just
at
like Abuja roads,
when you look at what IFRS said it collected as VAT from rivers, you can't segregate it from, you know, these issues. They collected a lot from them, but they remit very little.
Okay, let me take our last caller for today. Ada is calling us from Jos, Plateau State.
That's from Jos. Good evening. Please, sorry to draw you back. I asked you to tell me the difference between the bandits operating in Nigeria and Boko Haram. If you don't have time today, please, another program.
Okay.
But I'm confused. Okay. I don't know, they are the same as far as I'm concerned.
Thank you, Ada.
They are not. The VAT issue.
They are not the same.
Pardon?
Boko Haram and bandits are not the same. Boko Haram has an ideology. They want to set up an Islamic state of their own.
They want to take over
and judge people strictly based on Islamic laws.
They have everything.
Bandits are not interested in that. They are only interested in kidnapping people and making money. You know?
They are not interested in taking over any territory.
Boko Haram is a terrorist group that is out to kill people. But these other guys, whatever they are doing, kidnapping, is just for money that they are doing it. Boko Haram is not motivated strictly by money. There is an ideology. And that's the way terrorist groups
must worship our God the way we worship God.
Look, this is the way we want it, and if you don't agree, we'll behead you. That is what they are doing. People must know the fact that bandits are killing people does not make them terrorists. Yeah, they kill people. Armed robber, and armed robber will sometimes kill people. But that doesn't mean that the armed robber is a terrorist. That is the point that people do not understand. Because of their wickedness, they just want them to be called terrorists. No, that's not how to differentiate between a terrorist and a bandit.
Okay, the VAT issue.
Yes, I know it will continue. It will continue.
But it will get to the Supreme Court ultimately.
Yes, I think what Afenifere said makes sense. This is a matter that we need to sit down and resolve. All of what we are hearing, people turning this into an ethnic issue, is so shameful. It's a matter that can be resolved without a resort to religious sentiments and all that. No, and even beneficiaries will cut across all the geopolitical zones.
Yes, but some people are already begging that, please be your brother's keeper.
And we already made the point. If we already made the point that even in Dubai, that
instead of destroying it,
that means
they put heavy taxation on that
and very high,
so that it will be difficult.
Some people, yes, but some people will still sell, and some people, if you have the purchasing power, you buy.
It's like cigarette. Do you know that you write it there, you will die, or
draw a lot of
people still go there? So you can't discourage it. There is no law that can take care of it. So normally what smart governments do is they place a lot of money on it, so make it expensive, and so that the government make more money. So some of you who still insist, you know you are doing that, you know, we are paying through the nose.
I want to thank you, Adekunle Yusuf. Thank you for your contribution.
Thank you.
And Babajide Kolade Utitoju is the executive director of this production. He's been here from Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and to bring this 120 minutes is always very, very hectic. And that's our package for today. Join us tomorrow for our regular episode of Journalist Hangout at 5 p.m. And you can watch the repeat broadcasts of this episode at 11:30. Well, youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. I'm Ayodele Uzubakun. See you tomorrow at 5 p.m.